In the heart of Seattle, Washington, where the misty rain often painted the streets with a glossy sheen and the Space Needle pierced the cloudy sky, like a beacon of innovation, David Carter paced the sleek confines of his downtown apartment, his mind buzzing with the precision of a well-oiled machine. As a project manager at Nexus Innovations, a cutting-edge tech firm nestled in the bustling South Lake Union District, David had always prided himself on his strategic foresight, turning chaotic code sprints into seamless product launches that earned him nods from the higher-ups. Tonight was no exception. The annual company gala at the iconic Chihuly Garden and Glass venue promised to be a pivotal moment in his career trajectory. A glittering affair, where deals were sealed over champagne flutes and alliances forged amid the swirling colors of Dale Chihuly's blown glass masterpieces. David adjusted his crisp charcoal suit in the full-length mirror, his reflection exuding the confidence of a man who knew exactly how to play the game. He had meticulously planned every detail, from the talking points he'd rehearse about the latest AI integration project to the subtle power moves that would position him favorably in the eyes of CEO Olivia Grant, a visionary leader whose sharp intellect and no-nonsense demeanor had propelled Nexus to the forefront of the tech world. But there was one variable he couldn't afford to let complicate things: his wife, Clara Bennett. Clara, with her soft-spoken ways and passion for dusty history books, was a high school teacher at Roosevelt High, where she spent her days inspiring teenagers to connect with the past through stories of forgotten heroes and pivotal events. David loved her, or at least he told himself he did, but in the cutthroat arena of corporate networking, she felt like an anchor rather than an asset, too grounded, too unpolished for the sleek, ambition-fueled crowd that would fill the venue. He had convinced himself that leaving her at home was a mercy, especially since she was still nursing a sprained ankle from a clumsy slip on the slick Seattle sidewalks during a recent field trip with her students. She'd hate it anyway, he muttered to his reflection, practicing the excuse he'd use if anyone asked about her absence. Instead, David had extended an invitation to Sophia Reed, the sharp-witted marketing strategist from his team whose MBA from Stanford and effortless charm made her the perfect companion for projecting an image of success. Sophia, with her impeccable style and network of influential contacts, understood the unspoken rules of these events. She could laugh at the right jokes, drop the right names, and subtly steer conversations toward David's strengths without missing a beat. As he texted Sophia to confirm their meetup time, a surge of excitement coursed through him. This was his chance to shine, to leapfrog over competitors vying for that promotion to senior director. Meanwhile, in the adjacent room, Clara sat on the edge of their king-sized bed, her fingers absently tracing the bandage on her ankle, as she overheard David's phone call through the thin walls of their modern loft. The words stung like salt in a wound. "Yeah, Clara's not up for it too much, hobbling around, you know. Besides, she's more the cozy night-in type." Her heart twisted, a mix of hurt and anger, bubbling up from years of subtle dismissals. Clara had met David during their college days at the University of Washington, where his engineering ambitions complemented her love for history. Back then, he admired her depth, her ability to weave narratives that made the mundane profound. But as his career skyrocketed in the tech boom, he seemed to forget that, viewing her profession as quaint, almost irrelevant, in a world dominated by algorithms and venture capital. She glanced at the invitation on the nightstand, the elegant cardstock emblazoned with the Chihuly logo, and felt a spark ignite within her. Recovering from the sprain had given her time to reflect, to remember the woman she was before marriage dulled her edges, the one who had organized community history walks that drew crowds, the one whose grant proposals for educational programs had been lauded by local foundations. Why should she sit this out? The gala wasn't just for tech titans. It was a gathering of minds, and hers was as sharp as any. Limping slightly, she rose and rummaged through her closet, pulling out a sapphire gown she had bought on a whim during a trip to Pike Place Market, its fabric shimmering like the Puget Sound under moonlight. As she slipped it on the dress, hugged her figure with an elegance she hadn't embraced in years, and she practiced a few steps in front of the mirror, her ankle protesting but holding steady. David emerged from the bathroom cologne wafting in his wake and froze at the sight of her. "Clara, what are you doing? I thought you were staying in." His voice carried an edge of irritation, masked as concern. She turned to him, her hazel eyes steady. "I changed my mind, David. The invitation is for both of us, after all." He hesitated, his mind racing through the implications. How would this affect his plan with Sophia? "But your ankle? And honestly, these events can be overwhelming. It's all shop talk, networking. You'd be bored." Clara forced a smile, but inside resolve hardened like steel. "I think I can handle it. Besides, Olivia Grant mentioned in her last company newsletter how she's passionate about education reform. Who knows? Maybe I can contribute something." David waved it off with a chuckle that didn't reach his eyes. "Come on, Clara. You're a history teacher, not a tech exec. Let's not complicate things." The words hung in the air, a chasm widening between them. As he grabbed his keys and headed out to pick up Sophia, claiming a quick team meeting beforehand, Clara stood alone in the apartment, the city lights twinkling through the floor-to-ceiling windows like distant stars. She called a rideshare, her heart pounding with a mix of nerves and defiance. The drive to the Chihuly Garden and Glass took her past the glowing Amazon spheres and the vibrant murals of Fremont, reminders of Seattle's blend of innovation and artistry. Arriving early, she limped through the entrance, the venue's ethereal glass sculptures twisting overhead in bursts of color, fiery reds, oceanic blues, a testament to human creativity. Guests were beginning to trickle in suits and gowns, mingling under the soft glow of ambient lights. Clara found a quiet corner, sipping a glass of sparkling water, observing the dynamics executives clustering like planets around Olivia Grant, whose presence commanded the room with her tailored pantsuit and warm yet piercing gaze. David arrived shortly after Sophia on his arm, her emerald dress a bold statement against the artistic backdrop. He scanned the room, his posture straightening as he spotted potential allies, but his eyes widened when they landed on Clara across the way. She met his gaze steadily, a silent challenge in her expression. Sophia, sensing the tension, whispered something in his ear, but David brushed it off, his carefully laid plans already fraying at the edges. As the evening's program began with a welcome speech from Olivia, praising the intersection of technology and community impact, Clara felt a surge of belonging. She wasn't just David's plus one, she was Clara Bennett, educator, storyteller force to be reckoned with. Little did David know this miscalculation of his would unravel everything he thought he controlled, forcing him to confront the true value of the woman he had underestimated for far too long. The night air carried the faint scent of blooming gardens outside, a promise of change amid the glass wonders. Clara straightened her posture, ready to step into the light, her sprained ankle a minor hurdle compared to the emotional leaps ahead. David, meanwhile, forced a smile as he introduced Sophia to a group of VPs, but his mind wandered back to Clara, a nagging doubt creeping in for the first time. How had he missed this side of her? The gala's energy pulsed around them, conversations flowing like rivers through the venue's winding paths, each twist and turn holding potential surprises. Clara engaged a nearby guest in small talk about Seattle's rich indigenous history, her knowledge shining through effortlessly, drawing nods of appreciation. Across the room, Sophia laughed at one of David's jokes, but it felt hollow to him now, his focus splintered. As the band struck up a lively tune, guests began to mingle more freely, and Clara ventured deeper into the crowd, her gown catching the light like a sapphire beacon. David watched from afar, a mix of irritation and unease settling in his chest. This wasn't how the night was supposed to go. He had envisioned seamless networking, Sophia's charisma, amplifying his own, leading to that coveted conversation with Olivia about his promotion prospects. Instead, here was Clara navigating the social currents with a grace he hadn't anticipated, her quiet resilience turning heads in ways he never imagined. The Chihuly pieces overhead seemed to mock his oversight, their intricate forms a reminder that beauty and strength often hid in plain sight. Clara, pausing near a massive glass chandelier, reflected on their marriage, the early days of shared dreams, weekend hikes in the Olympic National Park, debates over coffee about history's lessons for the future. Lately, though, David's ambition had eclipsed everything, turning their home into a staging ground for his career rather than a sanctuary. Tonight, she decided, would be a turning point, not just for him, but for her. As Olivia Grant took the stage again to announce the evening's highlights, including a charity auction for local education initiatives, Clara's ears perked up. This was her domain, her expertise. David, steering Sophia toward the CEO's circle, felt a pang of regret, but pushed it down, clinging to his plan. The venue's atmosphere thickened with anticipation, the glass art reflecting myriad faces, each hiding their own stories. Clara limped forward, determination masking any pain, ready to claim her space in this world that David had deemed unfit for her. The chapter of miscalculation was unfolding, setting the stage for revelations that would reshape their lives in the rainy embrace of Seattle. The Chihuly Garden and Glass venue shimmered like a dreamscape. Under the Seattle evening sky, its iconic glass sculptures twisting in vibrant hues of crimson azure and gold, illuminated by strategically placed spotlights that cast ethereal glows across the polished marble floors. Guests in tailored tuxedos and elegant gowns mingled amid the art installations, their conversations a symphony of laughter, clinking glasses, and whispered business deals, the air scented with fresh florals from the adjacent gardens and the faint tang of Pacific Northwest rain lingering outside. Clara Bennett stepped through the grand entrance, her sapphire gown flowing like liquid silk around her, the fabric catching the light in ways that made her feel almost otherworldly despite the subtle limp from her sprained ankle. She had arrived alone, her rideshare dropping her off at the curb, where valets buzzed about luxury cars. And now, as she navigated the crowd, heads turned not out of pity for her slight hobble, but in admiration of her poised demeanor and the quiet confidence radiating from her hazel eyes. Clara had always been the observer in social settings, content to let David take the lead. But tonight, fueled by the sting of his dismissal, she felt a fire kindling within, urging her to engage rather than retreat. Spotting a cluster of guests near a towering glass chandelier that resembled a burst of underwater flora, she approached with a warm smile, introducing herself to a venture capitalist named Marcus Hale, who was raving about the latest tech trends in education apps. "I'm Clara Bennett, a history teacher at Roosevelt High," she said, her voice steady and engaging. Marcus's eyebrows raised in interest. "History? In this crowd, that's refreshing. Most folks here are all about the future, AI, VR, you name it. But history's the foundation, right?" Clara nodded, launching into a passionate explanation of how understanding Seattle's social history, from the indigenous Duwamish tribes to the labor movements of the early 20th century, could inform modern community-driven initiatives. Her words flowed effortlessly, drawing in others nearby, including a software engineer who shared her enthusiasm for local storytelling. Across the room, David Carter entered with Sophia Reed on his arm, her emerald dress a bold contrast to the venue's artistic palette, her laughter tinkling like crystal as she leaned into him whispering about potential networking targets. David's plan was in motion. Charm, the executives highlight his recent project successes and position himself as the innovative leader ready for that senior director role. But as he scanned the venue, his eyes locked onto Clara, standing tall amid a growing circle of admirers, her gown shimmering under the lights. A jolt of surprise hit him like a cold wave. What was she doing here? He had assumed she'd stay home, nursing her injury and avoiding the overwhelming scene. Sophia followed his gaze, her smile faltering slightly. "Is that your wife? She looks stunning. Why didn't you mention she'd be here?" David forced a casual shrug, his mind racing. "Last-minute decision. She's recovering from an ankle thing, didn't think she'd make it." But inside unease gnawed at him. Clara's presence disrupted the narrative he'd crafted, where Sophia's polished MBA credentials and insider knowledge would amplify his image. As they approached CEO Olivia Grant's entourage, David plastered on his best professional grin, introducing Sophia as his brilliant colleague, while subtly steering the conversation toward Nexus's upcoming product line. Olivia, a formidable woman in her mid-50s, with silver-streaked hair and a pantsuit that screamed authority, nodded politely, but her sharp blue eyes seemed distracted, glancing toward the animated group where Clara held court. Flashback to 2 years ago. Clara in a modest office at the Seattle Public Library poring over grant applications late into the night, her desk cluttered with historical texts and proposal drafts. She had secured a significant funding boost for a local history project that digitized stories from marginalized communities, partnering with the Wing Luke Museum to preserve Asian American narratives in the International District. The success had been celebrated in education circles, earning her an award from the Washington State Historical Society, but David, buried in his own deadlines, had dismissed it as nice hobby stuff during a hurried dinner conversation. Back in the present, that overlooked triumph fueled Clara's current poise. She wove those experiences into her discussion, captivating Marcus and others with ideas on integrating historical context into tech-driven education tools. Imagine VR simulations of the 1919 Seattle General Strike, she enthused, teaching empathy and resilience through immersive experiences. The group murmured in agreement, one executive pulling out his phone to note her contact info. David, overhearing snippets from afar, felt a flicker of irritation. This was supposed to be his night, his stage. Sophia, sensing his distraction, tried to redirect by launching into a rehearsed pitch about marketing synergies, but her words fell flat, lacking the genuine passion Clara exuded. Subtle criticism began to creep in. A colleague named Raj from the engineering team sidled up to David with a knowing smirk. "Hey, man, your wife's stealing the show over there. Didn't know she was such a history buff. Smart move bringing her along." David chuckled awkwardly. "Yeah, she's full of surprises." But Raj's tone carried an undercurrent of judgment. "You should have led with that. Olivia's big on community impact these days, underestimating the home team, eh?" The words stung, exposing cracks in David's facade. He glanced at Sophia, whose calculated charm now seemed artificial compared to Clara's authenticity, her emerald dress suddenly appearing too flashy amid the venue's subtle artistry. As the evening progressed, Olivia Grant detached from her circle and made her way toward Clara's group, drawn by the lively debate. "I couldn't help but overhear," Olivia said, extending a hand to Clara. "Your take on community-driven education is spot on. At Nexus, we're launching a nonprofit arm focused on STEM, with a historical twist bridging past inequalities to future innovations. Tell me more about your grant work." Clara's heart raced. but she met Olivia's gaze evenly, delving into details of her past projects, emphasizing how history fosters critical thinking in a tech-saturated world. The conversation deepened, with Olivia nodding thoughtfully, her interest piqued by Clara's insights on Seattle's diverse heritage, from the Klondike Gold Rush migrants to modern tech boom displacements. Guests around them listened raptly, admiration evident in their expressions. David watched from the sidelines, his champagne flute forgotten in his hand, a mix of pride and panic swirling within. Pride. Where had that come from? He had always seen Clara as separate from his world, yet here she was thriving in it, her knowledge a bridge he hadn't bothered to cross. Sophia tugged at his sleeve, murmuring, "We should join them, network together." But David hesitated, his unraveling plans leaving him off balance. The band played a soft jazz melody underscoring the venue's magical ambiance, glass sculptures reflecting the shifting dynamics like mirrors to hidden truths. Clara, animated and assured, felt alive in a way she hadn't in years, her sprained ankle a distant ache amid the intellectual spark. As Olivia wrapped up their chat, she slipped Clara a business card. "I'd love for you to pitch a history education program to our non-profit board. Something tying local stories to tech ethics. Email me tomorrow." Clara's eyes widened in gratitude. "I'd be honored." The invitation hung in the air like a promise, a turning point that shifted the night's trajectory. David, finally approaching with Sophia in tow, arrived just as the group dispersed, his smile strained. "Clara, you seem to be enjoying yourself." She turned to him, her expression a blend of triumph and quiet resolve. "More than I expected, David," Sophia interjected with forced enthusiasm, but the moment felt awkward, the contrast between Clara's genuine shine and their contrived partnership glaring. As the gala continued, with auctions and toasts echoing through the space, David grappled with the realization that his miscalculation ran deeper than one evening. It was a fundamental underestimation of the woman beside him, whose depth could eclipse his shallow ambitions. The Chihuly wonders overhead seemed to whisper of fragility and beauty, intertwined, a metaphor for the evening's revelations. Clara, buoyed by the invitation, moved through the crowd with renewed purpose, while David trailed behind, his facade cracking under the weight of unforeseen consequences. The night was far from over, but the turning point had arrived, setting in motion a cascade of changes that would challenge everything he thought he knew about success, partnership, and the true power of authenticity in a world of calculated moves. The morning after the gala dawned gray and drizzly in Seattle, the kind of weather that mirrored the emotional fog settling over David Carter as he nursed a hangover from too much champagne and regret in their downtown apartment overlooking Elliott Bay. The Space Needle loomed in the distance through the rain-streaked windows, a silent sentinel to the city's relentless drive forward, much like David's own career ambitions that now felt hollow in the harsh light of day. Clara Bennett had returned home late the previous night, slipping into bed without a word, her sapphire gown draped over a chair like a discarded dream, while David had crashed on the couch after a tense, silent ride back with Sophia Reed, who had peppered him with questions he couldn't answer. Now, as Clara emerged from the bedroom in comfortable jeans and a sweater, her sprained ankle wrapped, but her steps purposeful, she suggested they meet at their favorite cozy cafe in Capitol Hill, a quaint spot called Elliott's Brew, with exposed brick walls, mismatched chairs, and the aroma of freshly ground coffee beans wafting through the air. "We need to talk, David," she had said over the phone, her voice calm but firm, leaving no room for evasion. David agreed, his stomach twisting with apprehension. He knew this conversation was inevitable after watching Clara captivate the room at Chihuly Garden and Glass, her intellect outshining his carefully orchestrated facade. Arriving at the cafe first, He claimed a corner table by the window where rain pattered against the glass like accusatory fingers and ordered 2 lattes. Hers with almond milk, just how she liked it. When Clara walked in, shaking off her umbrella, her hazel eyes met his with a mix of resolve and sadness, and she slid into the seat across from him, placing a manila envelope on the table without preamble. "Divorce papers," she stated simply, her words cutting through the hum of morning chatter and the whir of the espresso machine. David's heart plummeted, his face paling, as he stared at the envelope, the legal jargon peeking out like a betrayal of his own making. "Clara, wait. Let's talk about this. Last night was... I messed up, okay? I didn't mean for things to go like that." She leaned forward, her voice steady but laced with hurt. "You didn't mean to dismiss me as not up for it, or to parade Sophia around like she was the upgrade you needed for your image, David. I've supported you through every late night at Nexus, every promotion chase, but you've been treating me like an afterthought, like my world doesn't measure up to yours." He reached for her hand, but she pulled back the steam from their coffees, rising between them like a barrier. Shaken by her directness, David felt the weight of his missteps crash down. Memories flooded him of his childhood in a competitive family back in suburban Chicago, where his father, a cutthroat sales executive, had drilled into him that success meant outmaneuvering everyone, including those closest to you. Dinners interrupted by work calls, his mother's quiet sacrifices overlooked in the pursuit of the next deal. That upbringing had fueled his ambition at Nexus Innovations, turning him into a strategist who viewed relationships as assets or liabilities, blinding him to Clara's true value, her passion for history that grounded him in ways his tech world never could. "I see that now," he admitted, his voice cracking. "Watching you with Olivia last night. You were brilliant, Clara. I was the fool thinking Sophia's polish could replace what you bring. But please, don't end us like this. Give me a chance to make it right." Clara studied him, her expression softening slightly as she sipped her latte, the cafe's ambient folk music underscoring the moment's gravity. "I'm not ending it yet, David. That's why I brought these, but I'm not signing them today. Prove to me you can change, that you value me as a partner, not just a safety net." Relief washed over him, mingled with determination. He nodded, vowing silently to step up. Meanwhile, Clara shifted gears, pulling out her laptop to prepare her pitch for Olivia Grant's nonprofit arm at Nexus, a program aimed at weaving historical narratives into tech education to foster empathy and innovation. She dove into research incorporating stories of marginalized communities in Seattle's history, the displacement of Japanese Americans during World War II, internment, the resilience of the Black Panther Party's local chapter in the Central District, and the indigenous Duwamish people's ongoing fight for recognition along the polluted Duwamish River. Her notes filled the screen with vivid details, archival photos from the Museum of History and Industry, quotes from oral histories collected by the Northwest Seaport Alliance, and ideas for interactive modules that could use VR to simulate historical events, bridging past injustices with future tech solutions. David watched her work, a spark of curiosity igniting, as he recalled his own college elective in American history long buried under layers of code and deadlines. "Can I help?" he offered tentatively, scooting his chair closer. Clara hesitated but nodded, handing him a stack of printouts. "Sure, cross-reference these labor strike accounts from 1910 with modern gig economy parallels. See if there's data on how history informs current worker rights apps." As they collaborated over the next hour, the cafe buzzing with locals typing away on laptops and baristas calling out orders, David discovered an untapped interest in the material. He pointed out connections to Nexus's AI ethics discussions, how understanding historical biases could prevent algorithmic discrimination, his insights surprising even himself. For the first time in months, they felt like a team laughter bubbling up as he mispronounced Duwamish, and she corrected him gently. But tension loomed when David's phone buzzed with a text from Sophia. Heard about Clara's pitch, careful she might not fit the corporate vibe. I could help refine it. The message dripped with jealousy, a veiled threat that Sophia, with her access to internal channels, might sabotage Clara's opportunity out of spite for the gala's fallout. David showed Clara the text, his face flushing with anger. She's crossing a line. I'll handle this. Clara's eyes narrowed, but she remained composed. Don't confront her yet. Let my work speak for itself. Authenticity always wins over manipulation. Later that afternoon, back in their apartment with its minimalist decor and views of ferries slicing through the bay, Clara refined her pitch deck, incorporating David's suggestions while he paced the living room, reflecting on how his childhood's competitive edge had morphed into blind ambition, costing him nearly everything. A flashback pulled him deeper as a teen, watching his parents argue over his father's affair with a colleague, the betrayal excused as networking necessity, a pattern David had unwittingly repeated with Sophia. Shame burned in his chest. He approached Clara at her desk, kneeling beside her. I'm sorry for everything, for undervaluing you, for letting work eclipse us. I want to change Clara, not just for the pitch, but for us. She turned, placing a hand on his cheek, her touch tentative but warm. Actions, David. Show me through actions. As the rain intensified outside, drumming against the windows like a call to renewal, David vowed to himself, and soon to her, that he would rebuild their trust, starting with supporting her fully in this new venture. The chapter of reckoning was raw and revealing, peeling back layers of misjudgment to expose the potential for growth, setting the stage for a reconciliation built on mutual respect rather than superficial gains. Clara closed her laptop, the pitch nearly ready, and suggested a walk. Despite the weather, their hands linking as they stepped out into the misty streets, a small but significant step toward healing. David felt the weight lifting, his reflections crystallizing into commitment. He would no longer let ambition blind him to the treasure right beside him. The cozy cafe's warmth lingered in his mind, a reminder that true partnerships thrive in honest conversations, not calculated schmoozing. As they strolled past vibrant murals in Capitol Hill, depicting Seattle's activist history, Clara shared more about her inspirations. And David listened, really listened, for the first time in too long, his vow to change echoing with every rain-soaked step. The sabotage threat from Sophia hung like a cloud, but Clara's authenticity shone through, prevailing in her preparations as she emailed Olivia a teaser outline, receiving an enthusiastic reply within minutes. David, witnessing this, felt a swell of pride untainted by self-interest, a sign that reflection was yielding real progress. Their apartment awaited them upon return, no longer a battleground, but a space for rebuilding the envelope of divorce papers tucked away, for now, a symbol of the chance he wouldn't squander. Weeks had passed since the pivotal cafe confrontation in Capitol Hill, and Seattle's autumn had fully embraced the city, with crisp air carrying the scent of fallen leaves from Volunteer Park, and the occasional burst of sunshine piercing through the ever-present clouds, casting a golden hue over the bustling streets. Clara Bennett's pitch to Olivia Grant's nonprofit arm at Nexus Innovations had been a resounding success, delivered in a sleek conference room high above the South Lake Union district, where floor-to-ceiling windows framed the glittering Lake Union dotted with sailboats and kayaks. Clara had stood confidently at the front, her sprained ankle now fully healed, presenting a comprehensive plan for a history education initiative that intertwined Seattle's rich past with cutting-edge tech tools, VR simulations of the Underground Railroad's local extensions, interactive apps, tracing the evolution of the city's tech boom from Boeing to Microsoft, and community workshops highlighting indigenous stewardship of the land by the Duwamish and Suquamish tribes. Olivia, impressed by Clara's depth and vision, had greenlit the project on the spot, offering her a leadership role with a substantial budget funded by Nexus's Corporate Social Responsibility Fund, a position that blended her teaching expertise with broader impact, allowing her to step away from the daily grind of high school classrooms while still inspiring young minds. David Carter, who had accompanied Clara to the meeting not as a spectator, but as a genuine supporter, watched with unfiltered pride as she fielded questions from the board. His own contributions to the pitch insights on integrating AI for personalized learning paths seamlessly woven in a testament to their budding collaboration. Inspired by Clara's unwavering passion, David had begun to reassess his cutthroat climb up the corporate ladder at Nexus, requesting a lateral move to a role focused on ethical tech development rather than aggressive project management. A shift that meant foregoing the immediate senior director promotion but aligning more closely with his rediscovered values of integrity over ambition. Back in their apartment, which now felt warmer with added touches, like historical prints on the walls and shared bookshelves, overflowing with tomes on Seattle's labor history and innovation timelines, David and Clara spent evenings brainstorming expansions for the initiative, their conversations flowing freely without the undercurrent of resentment that had once poisoned them. One rainy Saturday, they attended a community event at the Central District Community Center, a vibrant hub with colorful murals depicting Black excellence in Seattle from Jimi Hendrix's roots to the civil rights marches of the 1960s, where Clara was invited to speak on preserving local histories amid rapid urban development. The room was packed with diverse faces, educators, activists, tech workers, and families, the air buzzing with the aroma of soul food from a nearby potluck and the rhythmic beats of a live drum circle warming up in the adjacent hall. Clara took the podium, her voice resonant and assured, weaving tales of forgotten heroes like Edwin T. Pratt, the civil rights leader assassinated in 1960s, and how documenting such stories through digital archives could empower future generations to combat systemic inequalities. History isn't just dates and facts, she declared, her hazel eyes scanning the attentive crowd. It's the blueprint for empathy, the tool that helps us build a more just tomorrow by understanding yesterday's struggles. Applause erupted as she concluded, but the moment that truly sealed their renewal came when David, unprompted, stood to add his voice during the Q&A, publicly acknowledging Clara's profound impact on his life. As someone who's spent years chasing the next big tech breakthrough, he said, his tone humble and sincere, I've learned from Clara that real innovation starts with respecting the human stories behind the code. She's not just my wife, she's my guide, reminding me that ambition without authenticity is empty. The audience nodded in agreement, a few snapping photos on their phones, and Clara felt a warmth spread through her as David met her gaze, his expression one of genuine partnership rather than possession. Their renewed bond was palpable, built on mutual respect and shared growth. Where David's support extended beyond words, he volunteered weekends at the community center, helping digitize old photographs from the Nordic Heritage Museum, rediscovering a joy in hands-on work that his desk job had long suppressed. As the event wrapped up with networking over coffee and pastries, Olivia Grant approached them, her presence as commanding as ever, praising the initiative's early buzz and hinting at potential expansions to other cities. This is what Nexus needs more of, she said, shaking Clara's hand firmly. Partnerships that matter. walking home through the leaf-strewn paths of Cal Anderson Park, hand in hand under a shared umbrella, as rain pattered softly. David and Clara reflected on their journey from the miscalculated gala night to this new beginning where trust had been rebuilt brick by brick through honest actions and vulnerability. The lesson crystallized for them both. True success isn't measured by titles or accolades, but by the authenticity we bring to our relationships and the value we place on those who inspire us daily, teaching us that superficial ambition often blinds us to the profound treasures right beside us, urging a life of mutual upliftment over solitary climbs. This educational insight extended beyond their marriage. In Clara's program, it became a core theme with modules encouraging participants to interview elders in their communities, fostering intergenerational bonds, and highlighting how personal histories shape collective progress. The story of their transformation served as a quiet example at Nexus, where David now mentored younger employees on work-life balance, sharing anonymized anecdotes of his near loss, to drive home the point that professional growth thrives when rooted in personal integrity. As winter approached with holiday lights beginning to twinkle along Pike Street, Clara and David planned their first joint history exhibit at the Museum of Museums, a collaborative display on Seattle's evolution from timber town to tech hub, symbolizing their rebuilt trust. Each artifact carefully chosen together, narratives co-authored, a tangible representation of how facing one's flaws can lead to deeper connections. In quiet moments at home, curled up on the couch with mugs of hot cider, they marveled at how close they had come to losing it all, grateful for the reckoning that had paved the way for this enriched life. The community center event lingered in their minds as a milestone where Clara's speech had not only educated the attendees on historical preservation, but also illustrated the power of redemption and respect in real time. David, once driven by ego, now found fulfillment in supporting Clara's vision, his own career path realigned to contribute to societal good rather than personal gain. Their partnership, forged anew, emphasized that growth is a shared journey where honoring each other's strengths builds unbreakable foundations. And so, in the rainy embrace of Seattle, Clara and David embraced a future where authenticity reigned, a lesson etched into their hearts. Value the people who ground you for in their light. True success illuminates the path forward, educating us all on the timeless importance of empathy, respect, and genuine connection in a world too often dazzled by superficial shine.